On March 28, 2025, South Korean developer Krafton released inZOI's Early Access Edition to Steam, with inZOI arguably being the biggest competition which the Sims franchise has come up against over the last 25 years. It's fair to say that life sim lovers have both been eagerly and tentatively anticipating the game. So now that inZOI has been out for a month, today I'm going to take a retrospective look back on the game's first few weeks, including notable events in its timeline, its successes, and its controversies. My question of the day for you is, what do you think about inZOI? Whether you've got it and sunk tens of hours into the game, or if you're cautiously observing from a distance for now, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. While we had heard drips and drabs about inZOI throughout 2024, the floodgates of extra early access content opened in the autumn when a handful of creators were invited to a closed playtest. I think that the crazy high view counts on a lot of this early content really speaks to the intrigue which the community felt towards inZOI at the time. On scanning the comment sections of some of these videos, viewers seemed to be both mesmerized by and slightly concerned by the game's ultra-realistic graphical style. This was of course a huge shift from the more cartoony aesthetic of both The Sims and smaller similar projects like Paralives and the now cancelled Life by You. Perhaps understandably, some were worried about how accessible the game would be for players who don't own high-end rigs. Outside of this though, viewers also seemed to be impressed by the fact that many features which have traditionally been locked behind paid DLC in The Sims were simply in the base game within inZOI, and overall, for the most part, there seemed to be quite a hopeful community aura around the game. In this, I saw a lot of players expressing how they appreciated that The Sims now had some competition, and how they were excited to see what shenanigans modders would get up to once they got their hands on the game, especially as Krafton had announced that modding support would be enabled right from release. We'll come back to this latter aspect later though. All of this built on hype, which had started building in late August of 2024, when a free Create a ZOI demo had been made available for a brief period. Just days before launch, the Creative Studio demo also dropped, which, in addition to letting players once again road test the Create a ZOI features, also allowed you to play around with build mode. The excitement which all of this pre-launch activity had generated was clearly paying off for Krafton, as inZOI had also topped Steam's wishlist chart shortly before the early access released. So while at this point it looked like everything was coming up Krafton, some storms were brewing. The biggest of these before launch was arguably the fact that inZOI was initially slated to be released with de novo DRM, and Krafton had not openly disclosed this. I initially had no idea what this was, so I'll quickly clarify. As far as I understand it, de novo DRM is an anti-tampering software which essentially makes a game harder to pirate and more difficult to mod. Apparently it can also cause some performance issues in game too, so suffice to say, players were not happy about this move, which is generally viewed as very anti-consumer. However, this seemed to be a fire which could be put out by the inZOI team. Days before the game was set to release, and following the strong community backlash, which came as a result of the discovery of de novo DRM in the game, inZOI's producer and director Kejun Kim, please let me know if I'm pronouncing that name right in the comments down below, issued a statement in which it was noted that, quote, "As a development team committed to putting players first, the decision to remove the anti-tamper solution became a clear one. We will continue to prioritize your feedback and make well-informed decisions throughout our early access development." This announcement came as a big relief for many players, and it really set a sense of a collaborative tone between Krafton and inZOI fans. The question now was, how would these fans receive the game once it was actually released? So on March 28th of 2025, inZOI launched in early access with a $40 price tag, and it seemed that right on day one, public perception towards the game might have been shaken again, as a torrent of mixed reviews from press outlets dropped. For example, Miri Teixeira's review from Games Radar noted how inZOI, quote, "currently feels like a soulless imitation of the worst parts of The Sims." Further reviews from those like Sarah Thwaites at IGN, Jessica Cogswell from GameSpot, Dashiell Wood from Tech Radar, and Nicole Carpenter from Polygon all quite clearly arrived at a similar conclusion, that inZOI currently felt like it prioritized style over substance. Interestingly though, this didn't put off players, as within its first week, inZOI surpassed 1 million sales. Bear in mind that this is still only in early access and not a full release, so this is an impressive feat to be sure. What's more, in a fairly fairly stark contrast to these initial press reviews. At the time of writing this retrospective, 82% of inZOI's 17,000 user reviews on Steam are positive. This isn't to say that either of these camps are right or wrong by any means, more that it's just been interesting to observe the contrast between the two. As a really quick note, if you're enjoying the video so far, I'd really appreciate it if you dropped a like or even subscribe to the channel, as I'll be making more content like this in the future. Doing this as well as watching to the end tells YouTube's algorithms that my content is worth showing to more life sim players like you, which is a huge help. I also have my Ko-Fi page linked in the description below if you'd like more ways to support my work. Enough of my spiel, back to inZOI. As was to be expected, there were a number of bugs which surfaced after launch. The bug which caught the most attention was definitely the one which, how do I say this in a YouTube friendly way, propel ZOIs, including children, into the next plane of existence by smacking them with a car? While players were finding this almost GTA meets The Sims style of cartoon violence quite funny, the inZOI team didn't agree, with a spokesperson calling the bug, quote, highly inappropriate and being antithetical to the game's values. Unsurprisingly, this was patched out of the game pretty quickly. Another annoying glitch came with the fact that the devs were having to urge players to avoid having your ZOIs remarry multiple times, as it could cause family members to disappear. This was basically writing off any attempt at the popular Black Widow challenge, which is beloved by many simmers. Other than this though, with the game finally out, players were able to confirm a concern which had been somewhat skirted around throughout development: would you be able to play with gay ZOIs? While the game does let you select what your ZOI's sexual orientation is in the character creator, players quickly found that all NPCs living around the world were set to straight by default. In an update post from the devs which was released on launch day, this was listed as a known issue. This seemingly still hasn't been addressed yet and has definitely left a bad taste in some players' mouths. While this was evidently one very valid reason why players may feel the need to boycott the game, within inZOI's first week on the market, the discussion around another potential issue was bubbling up. Like the lack of same-sex relationships, this one had also been lurking in the shadows throughout inZOI's development, and this was all to do with inZOI's use of AI. The rapid adoption of generative AI, or artificial intelligence systems which generate new content by drawing on the data that it's been trained with, has been fundamentally changing and threatening work done by individuals in almost every creative industry. In the gaming space, this includes work done by developers, artists, animators, voice actors. Again, with almost any role you can think of, I guarantee there have been conversations around how generative AI can be implemented to cut costs and to improve efficiency within the boardrooms of all major game studios in the last year. But back to inZOI, Krafton is very open about the fact that it leans on AI technology in the production of its games. They have an entire page on their website which outlines the various areas of AI research and development which they are currently exploring, as well as a note on their use of ethical AI at the company. As for the statement which Krafton have directly left as it relates to inZOI's inclusion of AI, the game's Steam page reads, quote, players can generate unique textures for character outfits and various items based on text input. They can also create 3D objects from image input, which can be used as interior decorations or accessories, and add distinctive motions to their ZOIs using video input. Additionally, the actions and thoughts of ZOIs are controlled through SLM technology, enabling more engaging and intuitive interactions. While this seems to paint a fairly black and white picture regarding inZOI's use of generative AI and a user's ability to avoid these certain features if they choose, some players have been less convinced. For example, simmers like Fake Gamer Girl and Silly have made videos which outlined their hesitation around supporting inZOI as a result of the murkiness around the true extent of the developer's use of generative AI and building the game. Both of these videos will be linked in the description below. As for my own research which I've done into this, considering how Krafton's page noted how they're using generative AI to work on voice synthesis, I was eager to see if the game's credits listed the voice actors which worked on on the game, but to my surprise, I was unable to find any credits at all. I checked inZOI's settings on their Steam page and on the official website, but I couldn't find any. This might be to do with the fact that the game is still in early access, but it did raise a few questions for me. This could honestly be a skill issue on my part though, and if anyone is able to link to the game's credits, I'd be grateful. Ultimately, AI remains to be a bone of contention within the inZOI community. Outside of these controversial aspects, it was nice to see The Sims officially welcoming inZOI onto the scene, especially as the game had been positioned as the Sims killer by some. As you can see in this tweet here, The Sims rolled out the welcome wagon with the classic fruitcake, which inZOI seemed to gladly accept. So despite the controversies and initial glitches, you could easily say that inZOI was off to a fantastic start. Again, having sold over 1 million copies within its first week and having over 87,000 active players on launch day. But as has been noted by some press outlets, this initial success does not necessarily appear to have been sustained. Data from platforms like SteamDB and Steam Charts suggests that the average number of daily players has dropped to around about 5,000 now at the end of April 2025. Past its first week, the inZOI team appeared to get a little bit quiet. A handful of hotfixes dropped which have addressed bugs, crashing issues, gameplay aspects, lighting settings, and much more, but from what I can tell, the aforementioned quote known issue of all NPC ZOIs being locked straight by default has not been addressed yet. Aside from these though, no significant content updates have been released, which may explain the more recent drop-off if players feel as though they've explored everything that the game has to offer at the moment. However, literally within 24 hours of me writing this, what I believe is the second installment of Kajun's letters have been posted to inZOI's Steam page, with the first letter being published on March 29th. This new one mirrored the same tone of appreciation towards fans and player feedback as the original did. I think that inZOI having the backing of Krafton, which is estimated to have a market cap of almost £9 billion as of the time of writing, I think it was quite refreshing to also see Kajun getting quite deeply personal in this letter. Here he notes, quote, "To be honest, releasing inZOI left me feeling with many complicated feelings. In many ways, putting a game out into the world feels a lot like becoming a parent. Creating something new frees you from the world and its many expectations. You feel a true connection with what you've made, one so deep that it blurs the lines between creator and creation. It's a truly profound experience. Of course, that joy comes with its share of pain. As joyful as it is when the world embraces your creation, it hurts just as much when it doesn't. But perhaps that pain is simply just another part of being a creator. I'd even call it a pain worth having." Perhaps most importantly though, Kajun emphasized that communication within the community via this format and others like pre-update live Q&A sessions would be more frequent going forward, as well as the fact that the team were busy working away on new content which was planned to be delivered within the next few months. So looking ahead then, what does the future of inZOI look like? In an official roadmap released right around when the early access dropped, plans for significant content updates coming in 2025 are slated for May, where official mod support will be added, as it had been pushed back from day one inclusion as was initially stated, alongside cheat codes, Creator-ZOI and build mode updates, and gameplay aspects such as the addition of an adoption system. August, where excitingly a new Cat Island world is planned to be added, as well as ghost gameplay, swimming and pools, a freelance job system and parenting improvements. October, where details start getting a little bit more sparse but will include quote family time and holiday customization and build mode and modding improvements. And lastly December, where the ability to move cities will be added alongside an indoor temperature system, memory system, trait-based interactions and more build mode and modding improvements. If you want to see the entire roadmap images for slightly more detail, they'll be linked below. And with Kajun's letters dropping at the 11th hour, that has been about everything that's gone down in inZOI's first month of early access. It seems as though it's been both super eventful and a weirdly relatively quiet one at the same time, but as Kajun's letters have suggested, hopefully communication will be much more consistent going forward. While I haven't had as much time as I would have liked to have have sunk into the game over the last few weeks, I'm intrigued to see how it evolves over the coming year or so. This isn't my usual type of video, so I'd really appreciate any feedback on this format that you might have if you watched until this point in the video. But let us know in the comments down below what your experience with inZOI has been so far. Again, whether you've been playing it since day dot or if you've been observing all of these events unfold in real time and just have some thoughts. But with that said, thank you so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you again soon.